What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Progress Always. And I'm here honored and grateful for Brent Perkins, the founder of 3X Bold, helping men expand their capacity as fathers, lovers, and leaders. We connected through Sebastian Cruz, and had a chance meeting last week, 2 weeks ago.
Last week.
And what was slated for an hour turned into 2.5 hours of just deep, meaningful connection. And I am honored to have this conversation and share what you bring to the world in your practice through 3X Bold. I want to start with, first of all, thank you.
Of course.
My
honor.
Yeah, the simple grounding that we did prior to getting on the mic. You're masterful at holding space and curating the frequency for what's about to happen, what's about to be delivered, and the conversation we're about to have. So to experience that in a quick 30, 60 seconds, I'm excited for everything that we're going to build moving forward, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. Thanks for creating space for this.
Yeah, man. For the audience, how did you come into 3X Bold?
Yeah, so it was a culmination of stepping out of 20-year career, 18-year marriage, moving away from the things I thought I was supposed to build and define me for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I did build them, and I did let them define me. And yet the next chapter of my life, just over 3 years ago, was to step into what it meant, what it looked like to be bold, not just in what I was doing, because I did well, right?
Yeah.
I knew how to do, but I didn't know how to be. And I definitely had no idea what the heck becoming was, and today getting to fold in doing with intent, being authentic and in alignment, and becoming magnetic, which is the three parts to being bold. It's been my journey, and I'm really excited to share it with the rest of the world.
Yeah. In the cliff notes of your journey, it sounds as if you moved through a period of your life where you had to burn it all down and, be the proverbial phoenix rising from the ashes and create a new self, step into a higher, better version of Brent. If that is indeed the case, and if it's not, we can pivot. But if that's indeed the case, do you feel like that act of ditching what sounds like everything, or a large chunk of it, the 80% to get to the 20, if you will, is absolutely necessary? Or how do you get in front of that dynamic?
Yeah, it's really a personal choice. It's a personal journey. Did it have to happen? No. Was it the only way I knew how to move forward through everything I was dealing with? Yeah. It was my style and what I needed to do to course correct. Maybe it was harder than it needed to be, but it worked. And it's, I just am grateful that I was able to move through it in that way and to share it, because I don't invite other people into this. Burning the ships it's tough on everybody in your life. But sometimes to get through to the other side and to show up as what you're fully capable of, and I knew what I was fully capable of, it was worth it. It was worth it.
How long did you know that was going to be required of you before you actually followed through on what was required of you?
I didn't know that I was fully going to have to burn the ships until it honestly just one day I was like, there's no way you're going to unwind this. Just knowing my personality, knowing how quick I like to move, and knowing how stubborn I am, right? That you put all those pieces together, and I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to slowly talk my way out of it and move, brick by brick, unwind it. I had to pivot.
What did you have a moment?
Yeah. I guess there was a couple of moments. The first moment came in my marriage, and there was more than just a moment, but that there came in inflection points, and
Mm-hmm.
um, that pivot came first. It was about 8 months, 10 months later that same inflection point came in my business, and then it was about 90 days later that came just in my life. So
Okay.
it progressively moved faster as I, you know, applied it to all facets of my life.
Mm-hmm. Let's break down what it is to be those three components of being bold.
Hmm.
What's the first one?
It's doing with intent. It's how
Okay.
we show up in what we do. I think
Mm-hmm.
most of us are real good at doing things, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And if we kind of play with this in a graphical way, we could say that the x-axis, this horizontal line left to right, is
Mm-hmm.
this is how we're doing. Like, and oftentimes we look at like how we show up in the world in terms of what we're doing as either being selfish on the far left side of this axis or selfless on the far right side.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, like, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a leader, as a dad, as a husband, I wanted to be selfish. I selfless. I wanted to be a servant leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
I let that kind of guide me. Oh, I'm giving to others. I'm serving others. But it was all about how I was doing, right? And it leaves a lot to be desired when all we're looking at is our actions.
Mm-hmm.
And when we add into the second component to this, which is who are we being? How are we being? Which is the y-axis, right? So now we've got this kind of cross formed, this vertical, up and down. And for me, the being piece is, are we being is so if let me back up. If doing is our output, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being is our input.
Okay.
So the bottom of this spectrum is self-poor, meaning we're not really showing up for ourselves. We're either not filling our tank or we're not growing it in a way that it can hold more.
Mm-hmm.
At the top of this spectrum is self-rich or self-full. Like,
Yeah.
have we filled our cup? Are we nourishing ourselves? Are we eating right? Are we taking time to ourselves? Like, are we giving to ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is we relook at servant leadership from this perspective.
Yes.
And yes, servant leadership is on this far right-hand side and it's selfless, but below the line, we're
Mm-hmm.
giving. And I look at giving as, well, I go to Goodwill quarterly, or I go through my closets and I grab a bunch of stuff and I take it to Goodwill and I give.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a
Yep.
giver.
Yep.
But I don't know if anybody really wants it. And it's stuff that I'm not even willing to sell because I think it's kind of worthless. So I give it away.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So how significant is
Yeah.
the giving?
Do people need it? Am I actually doing it because
Mm-hmm.
it's a selfish motivation?
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel good.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Where when we are selfless and we are above the line of that, into that place of being self-rich,
Mm-hmm.
now we're contributing.
Mm-hmm.
And as you and I had talked about, the difference between giving and contributing is additive.
Yes.
You're paying attention to what the world is actually needing, wanting. You're seeing
Mm-hmm.
it because you're so full. You've taken care
Yep.
of yourself. Now you can actually contribute in a value-adding way to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So this is interesting because so much the world says, hey, if you give first, everything else will take care of itself. And I don't follow that belief, not directly, right? It is about giving,
Yeah.
but it's about giving above the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you brought up contribution and it being additive, what that brought to my mind was, in everything that you do, you're looking for whatever it is to be a force multiplier.
Yes.
Right. If we're going to use Marine speak, like everything that you do, everyone that you have in your circle, everything that you take in should create an exponential result. 1 + 1 = 3,
Mm-hmm.
And when you really start to look at it from that perspective, we say a lot, leaders need to make themselves a priority. The mantra in the Marine Corps of mission Marines then me is effective in an acute combat situation, but doesn't necessarily have a lot of long-term utility when the decisions are not made at the speed of life and death, right? That mentality will take you to burnout
Mm-hmm.
over the long term, create liabilities out of leadership as opposed to assets, right? And so I love that construct of self-full versus selfless, and giving versus contributing. What an amazing reframe. And it also demonstrates that words do have meaning, and we have to be conscious of the language that we use, because in being an effective communicator, right, is message intended, message received, right? Um, where does the communication of contribution come into what you teach and how you lead?
Yeah. So if we look at this thing as 4 quadrants, right? So
Mhm.
you've got the lower right hand quadrant is giving, or it's really this place of performance. Like we're performing because
Mhm.
we are being selfless, but we're doing it from this self-poor way. So it's performance, but it's the state of unhealthy giving, which leads to
Mhm.
burnout. And we just talked about the upper right-hand side. So you're
Mhm.
selfless and you're self-rich or self-full, which is contributing, which is where we can have impact and influence
Yep.
in this force multiplying way.
Mhm.
What we didn't talk about is the bottom left-hand quadrant, which is survival. And I don't think we need to get too deep into this, but when you have no output, right?
Mhm.
You're selfish and you have no input. It's just this fear-based cycle, right? And there's of course a lot of society stuck there, but I don't think that's where your audience is really.
Mhm.
That's not why they're listening to you. They don't cycle through the survival place too often. But
Mhm.
the place we miss and we forget is this upper left-hand quadrant. And this is where on the surface it looks like there's no output. So it looks like we're selfish, but it's highly self-rich, highly self-full. And it is this development or developing quadrant. What
Mhm.
happens here is this is where we build capacity. This is where we build resilience. This is where we give to ourselves so much that it actually naturally pushes us over into the contributing quadrant.
Mhm.
And you'll see in some of my my website and the things I talk about, I talk about effortless impact or effortless influence. Why? Because you don't have to try. When you just show up as your whole best self, that you've taken care of you, people want to be around that,
Yeah.
right? Because
Mhm.
you don't need anything from them. So they can actually do their own work, show up as their best selves, give a piece of them that they're not scared to give, because you don't need anything from them. You don't have
Right.
expectations.
Mhm.
So then they can do what they're actually great at doing.
Yes. Mhm.
So it's this building, just to sum it up, it's this building capacity piece. It's not being afraid to step into development, whether that's on a health journey or whether that's on on an educational journey, or whatever it takes to build that capacity in our lives,
Mhm.
so we can actually show up differently above the line, as I say.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, where we want to spend, let's do the 80, let's play the 80/20 game,
Yeah.
right? We want to spend the 80% of our time in this upper left quadrant, and the inherent spillover of that building of capacity, of that development, will naturally carry us over into contribution with next to no effort
Yep.
on our own.
That's right. There's a line for all those parents out there that's just I just love, and it's that most lessons are caught, not taught.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In that vein, how do they catch them? It's because we're modeling it, we're doing it, we're living.
Mm-hmm.
And the only
Yes.
way to live something truly is you have to practice the heck out of it. Right. It's
Yeah.
like your training in the military.
Mm-hmm.
How many thousands of hours do you have doing something? And that you were building capacity, you were
Yeah.
developing yourself.
Mm-hmm. I had a client today. I love the word practice. I feel like it is such an important word because as we move through life from one day to the next, that's all we are doing. None of us are perfect. We're all practicing this thing called life.
Oh.
Okay. And I had a client come to me this morning, actually. We're spending a lot of time in this development quadrant together, much more in the emotional, mental, spiritual part of the spectrum than the physical.
Yeah.
And she's like, I just don't like the way that this interaction makes me feel. And I also recognize that how I'm feeling is mine to own, not theirs. And I told her that's the practice, right? The win, it isn't not feeling at all. The win is if that stimulus that takes you off center shows up, you're taken off center less extreme and you come back to center faster.
Mm-hmm.
Did that feedback loop, is it tighter for you this go around? Or are you, so what's the progress that you actually made? And that reframe was such a game changer because she's holding herself to this ideal, this thought of, ooh, if I do the work, I'll never have to experience this negative end of the feeling spectrum ever again. And that if you are in this building capacity quadrant, you're intentionally exposing yourself to that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Am I on the right track with you?
100%.
Okay.
And I've put a little bit of a framework around this, which you've already, I don't think you and I have talked about this yet, but what you're speaking to is exactly how I believe this, how I've practiced it in my own life and teach it, which is, when we build capacity, I look at all of this in a way that we're leaders in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're leading our businesses and the people that work for us, or we're leading our families, or we're leading our communities, or we're leading ourselves, right? It's about leadership, because leaders ultimately model amazing behavior. So what are the currencies of leadership? And I believe they are, it's not time, right? And everybody wants to buy back their time and get more of it, but that's like the ultimate, the benefit of it. That's like the interest that you earn when you invest properly, right? But the actual currencies are energy, attention, and presence. And they tie back to this 3x bold piece, because energy is how are we physically able to do things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy to do things?
Mm-hmm.
Attention is who we're being. It's where are we focusing ourselves? Where are we tuned in, zoned into, right? Specifically, intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
putting ourselves. And presence is really about who are we becoming? How are we showing up and letting things happen in this world, because we're just here without expectations, without needs, without any overlays, without dependencies, right?
Yes. I'm coming back to this engagement this morning, because part of the conversation was the person that she's engaging with is She feels that the energy is different towards her, and their energy is much more on the positive end of the spectrum with everyone else, right? And the invitation that I gave her was, you can choose to climb in that boat, or you can choose to remain on the outside looking in,
Mhm.
right? And that becomes a conscious decision, right? When our values at Next Level, integrity, courage, ownership, when you take ownership of your feeling world, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, no, I'm not being acted negatively upon, but I'm allowing that energy to negatively impact me. I can now, once I recognize that, I can take ownership of my feeling world
Mhm.
and realize that energy is not for me, and I can come over here, right?
Yep.
How very, very subjective question I'm about to ask. I do know that, but I'm interested in your perspective. How much work does somebody need to do to create that level of awareness that they can acknowledge what they're feeling for whatever it is, and then choose to be something else?
100%, it depends on the person. And I will say that is the baseline, the basal level work within building capacity, right? Because
Mhm,
what we want to be able do as leaders, whether this is, again, you're dealing with your kids, you're
mhm.
dealing with your significant other, you're dealing with an employee or
Yeah.
your business partner, right?
Mhm.
Or your mom. Come on, let's be
Yeah.
real. To have the space, the capacity in your world to not just be reactive, but to have
Mhm.
so much of a buffer zone that things can be said, energy can be spilled over, emotions can be had. And how much buffer zone do you need to be able to ultimately say, hey, the only person that has any choice and control over my life is me. I
Mhm.
have personal agency at the end of the day. I forget it sometimes, but I do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I need a buffer zone depending on
Mhm.
something. Look, with my dad, I need a bigger buffer zone than I do with my brother, right?
Sure.
That's
Okay.
just real in my life.
Mhm.
So have I done the work to, I think a lot of us who are entrepreneurial and business owners, or leaders in organizations, I think
Mhm.
it's a lot of time we have more buffer room for the people we deal with in our work life,
Oh, yeah.
because we've spent time doing it. But when we get triggered like this with family,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? So why is our buffer zone, why is our capacity bigger over here? We just haven't practiced and developed that muscle of it over here,
Well, I
right?
will also tell you, my thought on that is those that we associate with in business, or on the far left non-productive end of the spectrum, transactionally,
Yeah.
right? Those relationships are 100% optional,
Mm.
right? And the reason we allow the blood to boil, the blood pressure to go up, for these people that are closest to us, our nearest and dearest, to get under our skin and shit go sideways from time to time, or has a higher likelihood of going sideways from time to time, is because we know they're not going to leave. Or at least we have the confidence in that bond
Yeah.
that they're going to be around tomorrow. So I have time to reconcile whatever goes south. That luxury may not necessarily, we don't perceive that luxury to exist in those other relationships, right? And when you talk about the strength of a relationship, the four factors of proximity, duration, intensity, and frequency, the stronger those things are, the tougher it is to break it. So when we get into those, when we start talking about building capacity and those bonds need to be broken, for the simple fact that those people, whoever they may be, no longer serve us, or they're a reflection of an outdated version of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what makes, when you look at Dilt's model, the environmental layer that the entire pyramid rests upon, that's where the real work is, because that's years and years and years of pattern development that, again, going back to the practice of life, it's going to take practice. You don't just go to a workshop or a seminar or have a plant medicine experience and all of a sudden you come out and you're like, boom, I'm brand new, everything's changed. And then you walk in the house and it's just like, damn it, you're still here.
Yep. Yeah.
Wait a minute. You didn't just have we didn't have that experience together.
So
right?
can I share with you my cheat
Yeah,
code
please.
for this?
Yeah, please.
So my cheat code for this is that when we try to apply it to our family life or our, our church, or, a larger contingent of people at once is so hard. It's just so hard to do. So my cheat code is I pick somebody that I really struggle with, or that I'm really triggered with, and I need to build that buffer, that capacity with them.
Yep.
And it's safe enough. So for me, for instance, that's my younger daughter.
Okay.
Super triggering because of course I want to control her and have her do her chores and have her be a good human and have her show up on, in all these ways. And we've been able to have really deep conversations, open conversations, share these feelings and have these discussions that I don't have the time to do with everybody. So I chose her. Right. And because I've done this work so deeply with her, and I'm still the worst at it with her, right? Let's be clear.
Yeah. Okay.
It's automatic. It's like we talked about, when you do this capacity work, the contributing quadrant, like when you show up in this, you spill over, it just happens naturally. So like the deeper I work with just her, she's the person I do the deepest work with. I'm automatically better with my dad. I'm automatically better with my girlfriend. I'm automatically better with everybody else in my life, because if I'm 3% less triggered by her, right, then I'm 30% less triggered by most other people or most other events. Or I'm just starting to see that, you know what, gosh, if I can let it go and I can just be in my own place with my daughter, well, of course I can be with the coach over here, or the teacher, or the class attendant, whatever it is.
Right. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I love that. And do you set the table, or dare I say, get permission to do this work consciously with her? So does she recognize that she holds that space for you? Does she know that? Have you said that out loud explicitly?
I have not. And what I have said to her is that you're one of the most important people in my life. And I want to create a really safe and strong relationship for the two of us. And I don't need to control you. You're your own sentient human being. You're smart. I trust you. And I also want to control you because it's me wanting to keep you safe. So I'm just telling you right now, I don't know how this is going to look, and it's going to change every day. And I'm going to going to get it wrong, and I'm going to mess up. But I really want to have an open line of communication with you that we can talk through whatever shows up, because my intention is X, Y, or Z. Right. And that's what I've said.
Okay. So in Brent's way, yes, you have. Yeah. And I would also inject that at a subconscious level, if you're talking frequency, she knows that. Right. And I love this so much, because this is work that my wife and I do. Right. And when you've created that agreement that we are going to engage with each other on this level, and the expectation is that we're going to play full out in this interaction, you're giving yourselves permission for it to be clunky and ugly, and to come out weird, and to recommit in the moment. That didn't come out right, or you literally took it the wrong way. Not you're trying to spin it or gaslight me or anything like that. What you heard is not what I said. Let me try again. Right. And it's so funny because in real time, you're like, all you want is for the message intended to be the message received, but you're bringing it back to you in terms of, what do I need to say, or how do I need to say it, or what are you not hearing me say, so that we land this plane safely.
Yeah. Yeah. And once this
That's
safe
practice.
Yeah. Once this safe place is created with just one human in your life, right? You can actually get curious, or I'm finding I can get curious with myself in that, why do I need them to hear me this way? Why is it so important that they understand me?
Yeah.
And I was never able to go to that level of curiosity with myself until I had that depth with just one other person in my life.
Yeah. But I that's also, gosh, it's a word that always jumps out at me. Curiosity. Right. And I think this exercise of building capacity, if you can get there, you can get to a place where it's a game. You get to play in the building of capacity. And part of play is, I just want to see what happens. Right. And when to your point, when you create that playing field, if you will, with that one person, it gives you the positive reinforcement to go out and be that better version of yourself, or to embody that bold action with others out here.
That's true. And it's interesting. There's another cheat code, and I almost never see people use this cheat code, which is crazy to me, because, yes, we want to do this deep work to practice, to build capacity, so we're not reactive. We know that whatever energy someone's bringing, or whatever situation or accusations or blame or shame, like that's about them. And sometimes it takes a week to process that and realize that that's what they brought. And eventually we get to a point where we just don't allow that in our lives.
Yep.
And come on, even those of us that have done this work forever, like, we get triggered. Like, it's going to come through. It's going to pierce right through whatever buffer we've gotten. So what can we do in those moments? Honestly, it's really simple. It's the exact same tool that football has, that basketball has, that most professional sports have, and it's a timeout.
Yes.
And it's not it's not putting yourself in the corner or doing something silly. Like, timeouts were built to either stop momentum because things were headed in the wrong direction. They were meant to save the day because maybe you're about to step out of bounds or turn over the ball, or like do something in your life was going to happen where you're like, I need to make sure that doesn't happen. Sometimes you're just tired and you just need a quick reset, right? Yeah. And it could be mentally tired. You could just be mentally spent and you're having a hard time rewiring your brain. And in under 90 seconds, under 60 seconds, you can close your eyes. You can put your hand on your heart. This is what I find of the three components. Close your eyes, put your hand on your heart. Think of something you are extremely grateful for, an experience, another human, your favorite food, and bring that gratitude in your heart. And that's it. Smile. And when you open your eyes, everything is different, enough different that you can pivot. And how often do you see people doing this 7, 8, 10 times in their day? You don't have 10 minutes to do this 10 times a day.
It's so funny. It's so funny you say that, because what I find people have tremendous difficulty with is living into gratitude, right? What I've learned is to knee jerk reciprocate a compliment is at best lip service. If somebody goes out of their way to pay you a compliment, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the wisdom that you gave me in our last conversation. Like I'm better because of that conversation. Thank you. Right? Most of us, our knee-jerk response is, what's the nicest thing I can say back to you? Mm-hmm. Right? And it's funny because when you challenge that notion and replace it with, thank you, I received that fully, it's so counterintuitive. It makes the person receiving the compliment almost comically uncomfortable. It's the same energy as when you give somebody a hug and you hold it longer than they wanted you to, and they go to break the hug, but you're still holding on tight. To observe that is hilarious. But watching people step into that practice, it's really interesting because the more comfortable they get with it, the more deeply they receive said compliment. And now you're not walking around in the world with this obligation, this unrealistic expectation that if somebody tells you something, expresses gratitude towards you, you don't have an obligation to receive. That was a gift for you. You're not obligated to repay it right then and there.
So I usually don't get into this because it gets a little.
Oh man, we're here. Let's go.
A little bit. Part of the reason I have this model where giving is below the line, because giving and receiving, they're not disconnected, right? They have to go together. It's like the yin and yang symbol with the white and the black. Like they are part of this singular circular thing. But giving lives below the line, and so does receiving. When we actually are contributing in our lives, you don't have to receive something somebody's contributing because they've just added it. And it's already naturally received because it's integrated into the system, the universe. It's all part of it. And so we play with this tension of giving and receiving, and it, I don't know whether it's worse for men, feels like it is, but like receiving is tough sometimes. And yes, it's part of this yin and yang's, meshing together of giving, and it's a different level when we are all just contributing because it's naturally just adding to the value of the universe, of humanity.
Yes. Again, this model that you have of capacity, contribution, survival, and giving is so universal in application. It's and I want to dive a little bit further because what's showing up for me now is the difference between being selfless and selfful. You did such an amazing job in our conversation that I would be remiss if I didn't have you go in on the differentiation between those two components, those two extremes on the x-axis.
Yeah. So when we're operating this place of doing, and most of us are just afraid to be selfish, right? Because we're told that if we're selfish, we're going to be a narcissist, or we're going to have narcissist tendencies. And that word narcissism is thrown around a lot these days.
Oh yeah.
And what most people don't talk about or forget is that
Mm.
there's probably an uglier side to being selfless, and that's martyrdom.
Ooh,
You
okay.
know? Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the reason it's uglier than narcissism is that most of us don't have any idea that we're being martyrs. And in fact, we'll carry a torch to the other end of the world, claiming that of course we're not. Come on. We're such givers. Look at me. I'm giving.
Mhm.
And it's really, really ugly. And it's not only just ugly, it's hurtful. It's painful.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
if you think of somebody in your life, maybe it's you, and that's okay,
Mhm.
who is so intent on giving that what they give is like, oh my God, do I have to? Oh. And if you see the people around them, just they're receiving it because they feel obligated and nobody wants it. And then it creates shame and guilt, and you've got to return something. It just creates this doom loop of
Mhm.
nothing healthy. And
Right.
it's actually really ugly and really
Mhm.
deleterious to how how other people show up in the world too.
Mhm.
But when we're self-full,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think we've touched on this a lot already, but this we don't even have to see what people need, because if they need something besides what we are naturally able to give because of who we are,
Mhm.
then it's meant to come from someone else, right?
Yeah.
We are meant to live our most authentic whole selves. And that doesn't mean we're everything to all people.
Right.
And that's
Mhm.
okay.
Right. Yeah. And if you're attempting to be everything to everyone, is what you're saying, you stand the risk of ending up on that martyr end of the spectrum?
Well, look, part of what you've done in your career is be a personal trainer, right?
Mhm.
If you also try to teach people how to snow ski professionally,
Mhm.
you would probably lose your job, lose your license. You wouldn't have clients, and you'd
Right.
probably feel pretty horrible about it.
Mhm.
But in the rest of life, a lot of us, especially as we parent or we are in long-term relationships, we tr- it's of course it's not skiing and personal training, but we try to do all the things because we see that maybe the other person needs something, or we
Mhm.
want to give it to them because they desire it.
Yeah.
We cross those boundaries where we wouldn't in other areas of life, and that's what I
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. How does one come to accept their lane? How do you help people break that pattern of attempting to be everything to everyone?
Well, this is why it starts with, um, really working on the basic levels of creating enough capacity in the energy we show up with, being able to
Mhm.
just create those buffer zones and how we can react to situations. Because when we start with one person in our life, as I suggested or
Mhm.
invited in, we know that we're not perfect. We can't be all things. Um, we're just being our authentic self, and we learn to start to trust ourselves in that relationship with that person.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
as we trust ourselves and we see who we are at our core, right? And we are vulnerable enough to let that out.
Yep.
We know what we're great at, where we've had life experiences, where advice may or may not be something we can give in a certain scenario,
Right.
and we don't overstep it. Like with my daughter, I wouldn't try to teach her how to be a professional chef. I'm not one, right? I wouldn't
Mhm.
try to teach her how to do jujitsu because I don't know how to do it.
Right.
I know that. She knows that. We're honest with each other.
Mhm.
And so as that starts to show up in these ways in our lives that we practice it, we start to see incongruencies if we're doing it in other areas of life. And it
Yeah.
starts to shift.
Mhm.
Life is a practice. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight, but if we can find that success in one area of life, especially with something really important in our life,
Mhm.
you won't it's not comfortable to live your life incongruent. And naturally, you'll want to start chipping away at all those other areas of life.
Yeah.
You know,
I've been sharing this a lot as of late as I'm moving through this transition in my business. As tumultuous as it has been, as start and stop, sprint, jog, as it's been, I've never slept better. And I was sharing this with a friend of mine this morning, and the idea of what I described, he's like watching this in real time. He's like, dude, that sounds crazy to me. I wouldn't be sleeping at all if I was you right now. And in that moment, I realized, I'm like, well, I mean, to your point, yes, it does sound pretty fucking crazy to be taking all of this on, and I'm sleeping the best I've ever slept. And what came to me this morning is, oh, that is a sign that I am coming into alignment. To use 3X bold terminology, I've built the capacity for this.
Yeah.
And you made the point that it may not look exactly how you intended or you desired, better word. And that's okay. If you've built the capacity, you'll be able to handle however it shows up.
Yeah. What you
and you'll sleep good. You'll sleep better for it.
I think what all of us desire is to have impact, right? And impact looks differently. Some of us impact looks like a bunch of money and giving it away, or some of it, it can look like many different things. Most of the time it includes time. We've got to have time to be able to have a deep impact on people or things or communities in our life.
Yeah.
And there's this external chasing of time, building the scaffolding and infrastructures and offloading ourselves and looking at our calendars and going through all these pieces, it's helpful. But then there's the internal piece, and that's kind of what we're talking about right now. And what you've done in your life, because you've worked on in this developing quadrant, you've built capacity across energy, attention, and presence. You've created effortless influence, right? Like your business partner who's shouldering the workload for you. You're not even trying, and the way that you're just showing up in the world is automatically, naturally influencing her and what's happening in your business. And you're able to have impact on how this opportunity is showing up, how it's coming together, what it's going to mean for the community, locally and non-locally.
Yeah.
And you're not having to try because you've done the work in developing yourself. And let that shown up in a way where people around you trust you, want to be part of it. Their natural talents are coming out without any filter because you don't need them to be any different.
Right.
And that's what I see is happening in your life right now, which is beautiful.
Thank you. I received that fully.
Yeah.
It is. I encourage everybody listening to pay attention to the signs, right? What is the universe, your circle of influence, the opportunities that are coming your way, the rooms that you're being invited into, the conversations that are stimulating at a higher frequency than the rest. When you talk about pursuing your talents, building your capacity in energy, attention, and presence, the universe is going to give you clues as to where you should be devoting that time and that effort in the building of that capacity. Because I part of the practice of this whole thing is making sure that you're building capacity in the right arenas. Because what's also coming through me right now is the dark side of this coin is pursuing capacity in areas that don't serve you. And that just comes from a down-regulated level of awareness.
It's true.
How How do we avoid that trap?
I mean, this is why I talk about energy, attention, and presence as the
Mm-hmm.
currencies of leadership. There are currencies for other things that we can
Mm-hmm.
build capacity for.
Yeah.
I want to lead myself so that it naturally leads others. That's my journey and what I want to share with the world. And for me, what I've uncovered is that there's only 3 leadership currencies to be an amazing leader, and that is energy, attention, and presence. So that's where I'm choosing to build capacity in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You can build capacity for whatever the F you want to build it. You practice enough, you will get great at it.
Yeah.
Does it serve what you're trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a leader of leaders.
Yeah.
I think that's what parenting is that you're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're in a long-term relationship with a partner,
Mm-hmm.
you're both leading yourselves to lead each other.
Yeah.
And it shows up in our community. And I think that's what this podcast and this conversation is about.
Yeah.
Which is why I offer that framework.
Yeah. No, it's oh man, there's so much utility in what you're talking about, because when you identify for you where you're going to build that capacity, the building of it requires less effort. And I think that I think that's the counterintuitive part about the whole thing is, if I'm here and I desire to grow here, well, that delta on a surface level seems just daunting, and that the how you're going to do it is like painful to think about. And at the same time, what I shared with you in our conversation was this concept of the next easiest step. Just take it. Right? That next easiest step isn't painful. More often than not, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, and then you take the next one, and you create this pattern of taking the next easiest step, and all of a sudden, what I've come to find in that practice for me, I'm much more caring. I'm perceived to be so much more caring when I'm direct.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas an outdated version of Mycal was perceived to be an asshole and unapproachable. Right?
Yeah.
I can now, because of that practice and that capacity building, be just as direct and be received warmly and positively. And what's really changed isn't the words themselves, it's the energy and the intentionality behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because once upon a time, I thought it a concession of my integrity to change my words, to create a language pattern that made sure that you received exactly what I was trying to and what I intended. When the actual practice became, and the work that needed to be done was in how I delivered said information.
Yeah, and something we haven't exactly addressed yet is there's kind of two pieces to this, which is if the currencies, these things we're working on refining, getting better at, our energy, attention, and presence.
Mm-hmm.
The other component to this is that we may be absolutely at 100% perfect in those 3 areas, but our actual capacity, the vault that holds these currencies, the bank account,
Mm-hmm.
really small. So
tell me more.
I found in my life that, for instance, attention is where I was able to keep my focus with intentionality. I put so much effort into it, and it was not getting better. I didn't realize I was at 100%. I was done. Like I was as good as I was ever going to get at it, but I didn't have a large enough bank vault to hold it. And that's a different type of work that needs to be done internally to expand our ability,
Mm-hmm.
have this capacity to hold more amounts of that currency.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two pieces to this. Like, do we have enough room to get more of that currency? And
Okay.
do we have the skill sets and the wherewithal to practice getting more of that currency? But it doesn't help to practice getting more of that currency if you don't have the ability to hold more of it in your body. And that's
So
what when we talk about expanding our capacity, right?
yeah. So how do you get a bigger vault?
So we've talked about one of the kind of cheat codes for that, which is timeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Practicing giving yourself space.
Yep.
You can pay attention to your attention or your energy or your presence, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you've got the room to get out of your head for a minute.
Yeah.
And just breathe. And there's a second one, and I think you and I have talked about this before, but the second cheat code is expectations versus agreements.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't come up with this. This is talked about quite a bit. There's actually a really good book called The Expectations Hangover by Christine Hassler, which I really helped me out understanding this. But what I find is that we have expectations for everything in our life, from what happens in line at Costco gas station and how people line up and move through, to what happens when you walk into Starbucks, what it smells like, how the barista talks to you, to, what your employees say to you,
Yeah.
kids say to you, how your, wife or husband greets you at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
We have expectations everywhere. And nobody understands them because they're yours. They live in your brain, right? They're made up by you. Nobody else gets them.
Right.
But when we take those expectations, we say, hey, let's have a conversation here. This is what I feel like my expectations are. Half of them probably don't make sense to you, but they're what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make an agreement about something because I want us to come together. Now you've
Yes.
invited the other person to a negotiation table, and they get to bring all of their ideas and expectations to the table.
Mm-hmm.
You can mash them together and you can agree on something.
Yeah.
And once you make an agreement, it doesn't have to be written, but you hash things out and you give and take, and you come to this place where it's like, yeah, we can agree to this. When expectations get violated, it's personal, man. It hits you right in the chest. It's like,
yeah.
it triggers anger a lot of times.
Right.
But when an agreement gets broken, it's not a personal, it's like, well, wait a minute. We had an agreement. What happened here? Were you not able to, did something happen that you couldn't hold it? Like, let's talk through this.
Yeah.
Whole different game-changing way to approach life.
So powerful, man. It's so much easier if you want to talk about the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Creating a new agreement between you and I in the space in between us, or explicitly communicating an expectation that is so deep and intrinsic to me. Just on its face, what would you rather do? Sure. Because that agreement for sure is going to be a manifestation, a component of that agreement is going to be your intrinsic expectations. No doubt. But what would you rather say out loud?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
And what it ultimately does, I mean, it forces you to communicate with somebody else, which is the beautiful part about it. But
yeah, I love in the way that you present the difference between agreement and expectation. The agreement has so much less emotional charge.
Yep. You've removed that.
The way you present it, I mean, it's damn near neutral. Because we're not talking about Brent, we're not talking about Mycal, we're talking about the agreement.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And that right there is building capacity, because the more we can get out of playing the victim, even though, like, you may say, I'm not a victim. Well, when you respond to the world when somebody doing something to you and they made it happen to you, you're playing the victim, even in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when our expectations get violated and we get angry, like we're in victim mode. Somebody did something that cursed me and crossed me, and
Yeah.
versus it's just the agreement. It's just this
Yes.
inanimate thing out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to have another discussion about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is you're inviting someone along the way as the journey goes on to update the agreements, because it is also possible and more likely than not that the agreement that has been violated, that's now creating friction, is just simply outdated.
That's right.
So let's make a new one.
That's right. And if somebody's unable to hold their agreement with you,
Mhm.
maybe there's something else going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we got to
Yeah.
address that separately because it's
Mhm.
probably a bigger issue.
Yeah. Man, Brent, dude, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you for holding space and contributing to the building of my audience's capacity. That's massive, brother. I'm serious. I appreciate you.
Yeah. It's my honor. Thank you.
Where can everybody out there find you, connect with you, learn from you?
Yeah. The easiest is 3xbold.com, just six letters. And a number. From there, you can get into, I hold a monthly 60-minute space for leaders. It's free. It's curated based on 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs and owners and founders who want to come together and start to do this work.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, there's pathways there, or you can find me on LinkedIn. So
sweet. I really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
If you want to connect with my network, if you want to learn from those that are within arm's reach of Mycal, go check out coachdurs.com and become the fittest leader you can possibly be. Until next time, guys, progress always.